Part 1, Crash Landing on a Forgotten World. The Descent into Chaos. The starship Eclipse shuddered violently as alarms blared through its corridors. Commander Jace Holt gripped the control panel, his knuckles white. "Brace for impact," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The crew of 8 scrambled to secure themselves as the ship hurtled toward the planet's surface. Among them was Lyra, an alien girl with shimmering silver skin and eyes that glowed like twin moons. She had been their prisoner, but now, survival was the only mission. The crash was brutal. Metal screeched against crystal as the ship tore through the alien landscape. When the dust settled, the Eclipse was a mangled wreck, half buried in the crystalline sand of an unknown world. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, their heat reflecting off the jagged ruins that surrounded them. A hostile welcome. Jace was the first to emerge, his tactical gear covered in dust. He surveyed the wreckage, his sharp eyes scanning for threats. "Report," he barked. Lieutenant Caravas, the squad's medic, checked the crew for injuries. "Minor cuts and bruises, Commander. We're lucky to be alive." Lyra stood apart, her silver hair catching the light. She seemed unharmed, her expression unreadable. "This planet," she said softly, her voice melodic yet haunting. "It's not what it seems." The alien among them. The squad had found Lyra on a derelict space station weeks ago. She had been alone, her origins a mystery. Her abilities, telekinesis, heightened senses, and an uncanny connection to technology, had made her both an asset and a threat. Now, stranded on this alien world, she was their only hope of understanding where they were. As the crew salvaged supplies, Lyra wandered toward the crystalline ruins. The structures towered above them, their surfaces smooth and reflective. She placed a hand on one, and it pulsed faintly with light. "These ruins, they're alive," she whispered. "A dangerous discovery." Before Jace could respond, a low hum filled the air. The ground beneath them vibrated, and the crystals began to glow brighter. "We need to move," Jace ordered. The squad grabbed their gear and followed Lyra deeper into the ruins. The interior was breathtaking. The walls shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, and the air was cool despite the scorching heat outside. Lyra moved with purpose, her every step causing the crystals to react. "This place, it's connected to me," she said, her voice filled with awe. The first night. As night fell, the temperature dropped drastically. The squad set up camp in a large chamber, its walls glowing softly. Lyra sat apart, her eyes closed as if communing with the ruins. Jace approached her cautiously. "What are you?" he asked, his tone more curious than accusatory. Lyra opened her eyes, their glow intensifying. "I am a remnant of a forgotten people. My father sent me away to protect me. But now, I think he wanted me to find this place." Jace frowned. "Why? What's here?" Lyra's gaze turned distant. "A secret. One that could change everything." As the squad settled in for the night, the crystals hummed softly, as if whispering secrets only Lyra could hear. The first chapter of their journey had begun, but the true challenge, and the truth behind Lyra's father's secret, was yet to come. Part 2, Secrets in the Crystal City. The exploration begins. The squad moved cautiously through the crystalline city, their boots crunching on the shimmering sand that had blown into the ruins over centuries. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the faint hum of the crystals. Lyra walked ahead, her silver hair catching the light as she trailed her fingers along the walls. Every touch caused the crystals to pulse faintly, as if responding to her presence. "This place, it feels alive," Private Eli Carter muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. He adjusted the strap of his rifle, his eyes darting nervously around the towering structures. "It is alive," Lyra replied, her voice carrying a haunting melody. "These ruins are more than just buildings. They're a living record of my people's history. A language of light. Lieutenant Kara Voss, the squad's medic and resident scientist, stopped to examine a section of the wall. The surface was covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly. These aren't just decorations, she said, pulling out a small scanner. They're some kind of written language. If we can decode it, we might learn more about what happened here. Lyra joined her, her storm-gray eyes scanning the symbols. This passage speaks of a great war, she translated. My people were peaceful, but they were forced to defend themselves against an enemy that sought to destroy them. Commander Jace Holt frowned. An enemy? What kind of enemy? Lyra hesitated, her gaze distant. They called them the Voidborn. Creatures of darkness that consumed everything in their path. My people created a weapon to stop them, but it came at a great cost. The hidden chamber. As they pressed deeper into the ruins, Lyra suddenly stopped. Her hand brushed against a specific crystal, and the wall before them shifted with a low rumble. A hidden doorway revealed itself, leading into a chamber bathed in soft, blue light. Inside, the air was cooler, and the walls were lined with more glowing symbols. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, atop which rested a small, crystalline orb. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. Lyra approached it cautiously, her expression a mix of awe and fear. This is what my father hid, she said softly. The heart of ether. It's the key to the weapon. A dangerous revelation. Jace stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his sidearm. A weapon? What kind of weapon are we talking about? Lyra turned to face him, her eyes glowing brighter. A weapon capable of harnessing the energy of stars. My people used it to defeat the Voidborn, but it drained the life from this planet. That's why they abandoned it. The squad exchanged uneasy glances. Private Eli broke the silence. So, what? This thing is just sitting here, waiting for someone to use it? What if the Voidborn come back? Lyra's expression darkened. They will. And when they do, this weapon may be the only thing that can stop them. Tensions rise. The revelation hung heavily in the air. The squad had come to this planet seeking survival, but now they were faced with a decision that could change the fate of the galaxy. Jace crossed his arms, his mind racing. We need to figure out how this thing works. If the Voidborn are as dangerous as you say, we can't afford to leave it here. Lyra nodded, but her eyes betrayed her unease. There's more. My father left a warning. The heart of ether is not just a weapon. It's a test. Only those who are worthy can wield its power without being consumed by it. A test of worth. The words sent a chill through the group. And how do we know if we're worthy? Kara asked, her voice tinged with skepticism. Lyra's gaze softened. We'll know soon enough. The heart will choose. As if on cue, the orb began to glow brighter, its light filling the chamber. The crystals in the walls resonated with its energy, creating a harmonic hum that vibrated through the air. Lyra reached out, her fingers hovering just above the orb. Wait, Jace said, stepping forward. We don't know what this thing will do. It could be dangerous. Lyra turned to him, her expression resolute. We don't have a choice. If the Voidborn return, this may be our only hope. Before anyone could stop her, she placed her hand on the orb. The awakening. The moment her skin touched the crystal, a surge of energy erupted from the orb. Lyra's body glowed with the same light, her eyes blazing like twin stars. The squad shielded their faces as the chamber filled with a blinding radiance. When the light faded, Lyra stood unharmed, but her appearance had changed. Her silver hair now shimmered with streaks of blue, and her eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity. The orb had shrunk, now resting in the palm of her hand. It's done, she said, her voice echoing with power. The heart has chosen me. A new threat. Before the squad could process what had happened, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The crystals in the walls pulsed erratically, and a low, guttural growl echoed through the ruins. "What's happening?" Eli shouted, gripping his rifle tightly. Lyra's expression turned grim. "The heart's activation has awakened something. Something that's been sleeping here for centuries." The growl grew louder, and the squad turned to see a massive, shadowy figure emerging from the depths of the ruins. Its form was indistinct, shifting like smoke, but its glowing red eyes burned with malevolence. "Voidborn," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with dread. Part 3, The Storm That Awakens the Past. The Voidborn emerges. The shadowy figure loomed in the chamber, its form shifting and writhing like living smoke. Its glowing red eyes locked onto the squad, and a low, guttural growl reverberated through the air. The crystals in the walls pulsed erratically, as if reacting to the creature's presence. "Fall back!" Commander Jace Holt shouted, drawing his sidearm. The squad scrambled to form a defensive line, their weapons trained on the approaching threat. Lyra stood at the center, the heart of ether glowing brightly in her hand. "What is that thing?" Private Eli Carter asked, his voice trembling. "A Voidborn," Lyra replied, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "A remnant of the ancient enemy my people fought. It must have been trapped here when the city fell." The first strike. The Voidborn lunged, its form solidifying into razor-sharp claws. Jace fired his weapon, but the energy bolts passed harmlessly through the creature's shadowy body. "It's not working," he shouted. Lyra stepped forward, raising the heart of ether. The orb pulsed with light, and a beam of energy shot forth, striking the Voidborn. The creature howled in pain, its form flickering as if struggling to maintain its shape. "It's vulnerable to the heart's energy," Lyra called out. "But I can't hold it off alone." A desperate fight. The squad regrouped, using the environment to their advantage. Lieutenant Caravas activated a portable shield generator, creating a barrier between the Voidborn and the group. "We need to buy Lyra time," she shouted. Private Eli and Sergeant Marcus Hale flanked the creature, firing concentrated bursts of energy to distract it. The Voidborn lashed out, its claws slicing through the air with terrifying speed. Marcus barely dodged in time, his armor scraping against the crystalline floor. "Keep it busy," Jace ordered, his mind racing. "Lyra, can you use the heart to destroy it?" Lyra's expression was strained. "I'm still learning how to control its power. If I use too much, it could backfire." The storm approaches. As the battle raged, the chamber began to shake violently. The crystals in the walls glowed brighter, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. Outside, the twin suns were obscured by dark, swirling clouds. "A storm's coming," Kara shouted, her voice barely audible over the growing noise. "We need to get out of here." Lyra's eyes widened. "No. The storm, it's not natural. It's the Voidborn's doing. They're drawn to the heart's energy. If we leave now, they'll follow us." "A risky plan." Jace gritted his teeth, weighing their options. "We can't fight this thing and the storm at the same time. Lyra, is there a way to seal the Voidborn back in its prison?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "The heart can activate the city's defenses, but it will take time. I need to reach the central spire." "Then that's our mission," Jace said firmly. "Kara, Eli, Marcus, cover us. We're getting Lyra to the spire." The journey to the spire. The squad moved quickly through the ruins, the Voidborn hot on their heels. The storm outside grew more intense, lightning crackling across the sky. The crystals in the walls pulsed in time with the thunder, creating an eerie symphony of light and sound. As they neared the central spire, the Voidborn's attacks became more ferocious. It materialized in front of them, blocking their path. Lyra raised the heart, but the creature swiped at her, knocking the orb from her hand. "No!" Lyra cried, diving to retrieve it. Jace and Marcus opened fire, their combined attacks forcing the Voidborn to retreat momentarily. "Go!" Jace shouted. "We'll hold it off." The heart's power. Lyra reached the base of the spire, her hands trembling as she placed the heart of ether into a recessed slot. The spire began to glow, its energy resonating with the orb. The crystals in the walls lit up in a cascading wave, and the hum grew louder. "I'm activating the city's defenses," Lyra called out. "But it will take a few minutes to fully charge." A final stand. Jace and Marcus fought valiantly, but the Voidborn was relentless. Its claws tore through Marcus's armor, sending him sprawling to the ground. Jace rushed to his side, dragging him to safety behind a crystalline pillar. "Stay with me, Marcus," Jace said, applying pressure to the wound. Marcus grimaced, his face pale. "I'm not going anywhere, Commander." The storm's fury. Outside, the storm reached its peak. Lightning struck the spire, and the crystals in the walls began to crack under the strain. Lyra worked frantically, her hands moving over the control panel as she guided the heart's energy. "Almost there," she shouted. The Voidborn roared, its form growing larger and more menacing. It lunged at Lyra, but Kara and Eli intercepted it, their combined firepower forcing it back. The city awakens. With a final surge of energy, the spire's defenses activated. A massive beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the storm clouds. The Voidborn howled in agony as the light enveloped it, its form dissolving into nothingness. The storm began to dissipate, the dark clouds giving way to the twin suns' light. The crystals in the walls dimmed, their hum fading into silence. Aftermath. The squad regrouped at the base of the spire, their faces etched with exhaustion. Lyra retrieved the heart of ether, its glow now subdued. "We did it," Kara said, her voice filled with relief. But Lyra's expression was somber. This was only the beginning. The Voidborn are still out there, and they'll come for the heart. We need to be ready. Jace nodded, his resolve unwavering. "Then we'll be ready. Together." Part 4, The Father's Legacy. A moment of respite. The storm had passed, leaving the crystalline city bathed in the soft glow of the twin suns. The squad gathered in the central spire, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. Lyra stood at the heart of the chamber, the heart of ether cradled in her hands. Its light pulsed gently, a reminder of the power they now wielded, and the responsibility that came with it. Commander Jace Holt approached her, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "You did it, Lyra. You stopped the Voidborn." Lyra shook her head, her storm-gray eyes distant. "I only delayed them. The Voidborn are relentless. They'll return, and next time, they'll be stronger." The Father's message. As the squad tended to their wounds, Lyra turned her attention to the spire's control panel. The crystals around her flickered to life, projecting a holographic image of her father. His regal figure stood tall, his silver hair and glowing eyes mirroring Lyra's own. "My daughter," the hologram began, its voice echoing with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "If you are seeing this, it means the heart of ether has been awakened, and the Voidborn have returned." The squad gathered around, their attention fixed on the projection. "I hid the heart to protect the galaxy, but I always knew this day would come," Lyra's father continued. "The heart is not just a weapon, it is a key. A key to understanding the true nature of the Voidborn and the role our people were meant to play in the universe. A hidden truth." Lyra's hands trembled as she listened. "What does he mean?" Kara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The hologram gestured to the heart of ether. "The Voidborn are not mere creatures of destruction. They are a force of balance, a test for those who seek to wield power beyond their understanding. My people failed this test, and it cost us everything. But you, Lyra, are different. You carry the strength of both our kind and the humans who stand beside you. Together, you can succeed where we failed." The projection faded, leaving the squad in stunned silence. A new mission. Jace was the first to speak. "So, the heart isn't just a weapon. It's a tool for understanding the Voidborn. If we can learn to control it, we might be able to stop them for good." Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. "But it won't be easy. The heart's power is immense, and it demands a price. My father warned that only the worthy can wield it without being consumed." Private Eli Carter frowned. "And how do we know if we're worthy?" Lyra's gaze softened. "We'll know soon enough. The heart will test us, each in our own way. The first test." As if on cue, the heart of ether began to glow brighter, its light filling the chamber. The crystals in the walls resonated with its energy, creating a harmonic hum that vibrated through the air. Lyra closed her eyes, her hands tightening around the orb. Suddenly, the squad found themselves surrounded by swirling visions. Each member was confronted by their deepest fears and desires, their past mistakes and future hopes. Jace saw himself standing on the bridge of a starship, facing an impossible choice between saving his crew or completing the mission. Kara was back in a laboratory, reliving the moment she lost her team to a failed experiment. Eli found himself alone in the dark, haunted by the faces of those he couldn't save. Facing the truth. The visions were overwhelming, but one by one, the squad pushed through. Jace chose to save his crew, accepting the consequences of his decision. Kara forgave herself for the past, vowing to use her knowledge to protect others. Eli confronted his fears, finding strength in the bonds he had formed with his teammates. As the visions faded, the heart's light dimmed, its hum softening. Lyra opened her eyes, her expression filled with pride. "You passed the first test," she said. "The heart has accepted you." A growing threat. Before the squad could celebrate, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The crystals in the walls pulsed erratically, and a low, guttural growl echoed through the ruins. "They're back," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with dread. The squad turned to see multiple Voidborn emerging from the shadows, their glowing red eyes burning with malevolence. A united front. Jace tightened his grip on his weapon, his resolve unwavering. "We've faced them before, and we'll face them again. Together." Lyra raised the heart of ether, its light growing brighter. "This time, we fight as one." The squad formed a defensive line, their weapons at the ready. Lyra stood at the center, her connection to the heart amplifying her powers. The Voidborn lunged, their forms shifting like smoke, but the squad was ready. The battle begins. Jace and Marcus led the charge, their combined firepower forcing the Voidborn to retreat. Kara activated her shield generator, creating a barrier to protect the group. Eli and Private Liam Hayes flanked the creatures, their precise shots disrupting their forms. Lyra focused her energy, channeling the heart's power into a beam of light that struck the Voidborn. The creatures howled in pain, their forms flickering as they struggled to maintain their shape. A glimmer of hope. As the battle raged, Lyra's connection to the heart grew stronger. She could feel its energy flowing through her, guiding her movements. With a final surge of power, she unleashed a wave of light that enveloped the Voidborn, dissolving them into nothingness. The chamber fell silent, the crystals in the walls dimming as the threat passed. A new dawn. The squad regrouped, their faces etched with exhaustion but also determination. Lyra lowered the heart, its glow now subdued. "We did it," Kara said, her voice filled with relief. But Lyra's expression was somber. This was only the beginning. The Voidborn will return, and we need to be ready. Jace nodded, his resolve unwavering. "Then we'll be ready. Together."